Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin Ashrafil Mursaleen. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. I start by the name of Allah. I praise Him and thank Him for the countless blessings that He granted us without being obligated to do so. And I humbly ask Allah Ta'ala to raise the rank of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his kind family, and his great companions. Thereafter, dear brothers and sisters, inshallah, our lesson today will be in the chapter of fasting, Siyam. And so first we will talk about who is it that must fast. So after the author finished talking about zakah, he began talking about fasting, Siyam, which is to abstain from committing the invalidators of fasting all daytime, while having an intention in a specific way. The following is a section explaining the rules of fasting and what pertains to them. So every accountable Muslim who is able to fast is obligated to fast. And from this, we know that it is not an obligation on an original non-Muslim or an insane person or a child. But as we explained before, the guardian of the children who have reached the age of mental discrimination and have completed 7 lunar years, the guardian of such a child is obligated to order that child to fast if they can handle it, if they are able to endure fasting. And they are obligated to hit that child without abusing the child or causing bodily harm for leaving out fasting after they have completed 10 lunar years, as was mentioned in the case of prayer. But fasting is not an obligation upon those who cannot handle it due to old age or sickness. Now, in terms of the beginning of the month of Ramadan, it is confirmed by the testimony of one upright Muslim man who saw the crescent moon of Ramadan, or by completing 30 days of the Islamic month known as Sha'ban. And as for the fasting of a woman who is in her menstruation or postpartum bleeding, that bleeding that occurs after giving birth, her fast is not valid and it is impermissible, it is haram for her to fast. However, they have to make up the days of fasting that they have missed from Ramadan if they are able, and they must make this up before the following Ramadan begins. Also, it is permissible for the traveler of a distance, which allows him to shorten the prayer, not to fast. This person who is traveling a distance where he is allowed to shorten the prayer, this person is not obligated to fast, even if fasting is easy for him. But this is only allowed if the traveler departed the residential boundaries of their town before dawn, before Fajr. If they depart after dawn, then they cannot break their fast for that day. And if fasting is easy for them, then it's better for them to fast, as mentioned in the Quran. Now, breaking the fast is also permissible for the sick person, as well as the pregnant woman and the nursing woman who cannot bear the hardship of fasting. And here, what we mean by hardship is that which is similar to what permits performing the dry purification, the tayammum. For instance, being scared from losing one of the limbs, or being scared that one's sickness may endure and may become longer. However, everyone we have mentioned is obligated to make up the days of fasting that they missed, just like the ones who break their fast without a valid excuse. As for the Muslims who break their fast because of old age or a terminal illness, they are obligated to pay something called a fidyah, which is 1 mud of the most common staple food for every day they miss. And now we'll speak about the integrals of fasting. So the author said, it is an obligation within every obligatory fast to make a specific intention each night for Ramadan or to fulfill a vow to fast the following day. Meaning that the Muslim makes the intention after sunset and before dawn for every night in Ramadan. The second integral is to abstain from invalidators of fasting, such as having intercourse while having knowledge of the prohibition, knowledge that this is haram, and while remembering that one is fasting, being aware that they are in a state where they are fasting, and doing so willfully, okay? Not out of coercion, not out of being forced to do so. This would invalidate the fasting of both people who perform this act. Also, one must abstain from masturbation. This invalidates the fasting when done while having knowledge of the prohibition, knowledge that this is haram, and while aware that one is fasting, and while doing so willfully. And one must abstain from inducing vomiting by inserting the fingers into the mouth, for example, until the vomit reaches the middle of the throat, even if none was swallowed afterwards. This invalidates the fasting when done knowingly, while aware of the fast, and willfully. And one must abstain from committing apostasy during the daytime, even if one returned to Islam a moment later. As a Muslim, we must abstain from committing apostasy all the time. But what we're speaking about here is what would invalidate the fast. And so to commit apostasy during the daytime while one is fasting would invalidate his fast. And one must abstain from inserting any substance, even if as small as a sesame seed or a pebble, into the cavity of the head or the body, which is the area past the exit of the letter Ha, which is in the middle of the throat. So what passes this exit, this point, this has entered into the cavity of the body. Whether that cavity is something which digests food, like the stomach and the intestines, or not, like the urethra. The urethra is also considered a cavity of the body. This invalidates the fasting when done knowingly, while aware of the fast, and willfully. However, the fasting of the one who eats or drinks forgetfully is not invalidated. So one must abstain from inserting any substance into the cavities of the body through an orifice, that is, an opening of the body, like the mouth and the nose. However, swallowing one's pure saliva while it is still inside of the mouth is permissible, and this does not invalidate the fast. As for the one who swallows saliva that is mixed with a pure or a filthy substance, then they have invalidated their fast. On the other hand, smelling perfume or frankincense does not invalidate the fast, because neither of these things is an entity entering into a cavity of the body. And so, if the fasting Muslim avoided these matters, then their fast is valid as long as one does not become insane, even if it were only for a moment. And as long as one does not lose consciousness the whole day, meaning from dawn until sunset, from Fajr until Maghrib. So if it does not last the whole day, then the fast is not invalidated. The fast would be valid. So now we'll speak to the days on which fasting is unlawful. The author said, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, it is invalid and sinful to fast on the day of Eidul Fitr, which is the first of Shawwal. It's the first day after the month of Ramadan. As well as to fast the day of Eidul Adha, which is the 10th day of the Islamic month known as Dhul Hijjah. And the 3 days after the day of Eidul Adha, which are known as the 3 days of Tashriq, the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th of the Islamic month Dhul Hijjah. It is also invalid to fast the last half of the Islamic month Sha'ban, beginning on the 16th day of this month. And it is also invalid to fast the day of doubt, which is the 30th of Sha'ban, when 3 or more people whose testimony is not acceptable in confirming the beginning of Ramadan talk about seeing the Hilal of Ramadan. They talked amongst themselves saying, we saw the Hilal of Ramadan. And so it is invalid to fast the days that we have just mentioned, unless one joins the fasting of the second half of Sha'ban with the days that come before it. By fasting, for instance, the 15th of Sha'ban, then the 16th and the 17th, and so on. And the rule is the same for fasting the second half of Sha'ban when one is fasting to make up the days that they missed in Ramadan, or because it is a habitual rewardable practice of theirs, a wird, like the one who usually fasts on Mondays and Thursdays, or the one who fasts every second day. In such cases, it is permissible to fast the second half of Sha'ban or the day of doubt. Now, invalidating the fasting of one day of Ramadan by engaging in intercourse to break the fast without an excuse. This is sinful, and one must make this day up immediately after Eid al-Fitr if they are able. As well, one must fulfill something called the expiation of dhihar. The expiation of dhihar, this is to free a Muslim slave. And if one is unable to do this, then the expiation is to fast for 2 consecutive lunar months. And if one is unable to do this, then the expiation is to feed 60 poor Muslims, meaning to give every one of them a mud of the most common staple food in that town, like wheat or rice. And again, the mud is the fill of an average size pair of cupped hands, as we previously mentioned before. For somebody to fill the average size pair of cupped hands, this would be 1 mud. And with this, brothers and sisters, we've finished what we wish to address from the chapter of fasting. وَسُبْحَانَكَ اللَّهُمَّ وَبِحَمْدِكَ أَشْهَدُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ أَسْتَغْفِرُكَ وَأَتُوبُ إِلَيْكَ.